So I'm sitting down today with Mimi Watson, who's a psychic medium and a witch. She has been a psychic medium for well over 50 years, and a psychic medium at that, and a witch for, over 45 years. And I'm going to sit down and ask her some questions to do with the paranormal. I guess my first question would be, Mimi, what was your first paranormal experience? Or your psychic experience?
Well, I guess I was around 6 years old, and my first encounter was, I would call him the ghost man. And this was my actual bedroom, and when I was laying in bed, he used to stand right here in the middle of the doorway. And I used to yell downstairs to my mom, and when she would come up, I'd say, "Mom, was Dad up here between the door?" And she would say, "No, he's downstairs." And I'm like, "Well, Mom, I saw a ghost man, or I saw Dad in the doorway." And she said, "No, that wasn't Dad." I'm like, "Mom, he was there." And she said, "No." So this happened quite frequently, and of course at that age they think there's something wrong with you, so I had to block it. So I guess then around the age of 12, I knew I was different from everybody else, so I started studying the metaphysical world in witchcraft, because I wanted to learn more about the science and art and religion of it, and I needed more understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then, when I started to understand more about the ghost man, come to find out he lived in our basement, and he's still here today. And he had a workshop down cellar, so every time we would go down and we would build projects down there, then he would always stand over our shoulder because we could feel him seeing how we were working on our projects. He would always like that because you could see the shadow, you could feel him behind you, and you could see shadow figures walking back and forth.
You never felt him as a threat?
No, until one time he threw a pencil at me and I ran down the stairs. But I was about 6 or 7 years old at that time.
He's trying to get your attention, you think, then?
Oh yeah, he was trying to get me. He got it all right. I think I missed every step on the way down.
Since then, you developed your skills as a psychic medium, and also as definitely perfected the art of witchcraft, being a reverend and a high priestess. And with the paranormal world, as far as with the investigating and the psychics, what would you give for an advice to someone that's just starting out with the paranormal?
I would say you really need to learn how to protect yourself, because a lot of spirits retain their vibrations, their energy. They have a lot of residual energy, and that's something people really need to understand. So, I mean, that's just like you and I. If what's the word I'm looking for here?
The personality.
Exactly. They always retain their personality, so they always have that. Every time you go someplace, you leave a little bit of your energy behind. So it's something they really need to understand. So that's like your malevolent entities, or your demons, or whatever you want to call them. Those are not of this world. I say when a witch goes into a place, spirits are leery of us, because we know how to communicate with them on a spiritual astral realm. So they're kind of leery of us because we know how to communicate, because we've crossed both worlds. And the malevolent ones, they're very fearful of us because our vibrational energies are a lot higher, and we know how to protect ourselves very well. So any paranormal investigator, especially ones who are new to it, really need to learn how to protect themselves. And I'm very amazed at a lot of the professional ones still don't know how to protect themselves, or they refuse to protect themselves. And that's something they really need to learn how to do as well.
Well, what do you think the dangers are from that? I mean,
Well, if you're not protecting yourself, you can open up portals that you're not really aware of, and that can invite other you know, entities in as well, and you don't want to go home and get sick or create havoc to others that are standing there while you're investigating, because you'll feel pain, you'll feel the paranormal hangovers people call them. Your families might have attachments, things might be moving around in your house, and that's stuff you don't want to be involved in.
Do you think it's because all spirits have a underlying evilness to them, or is that why people feel that way, or?
No, not all spirits do. I don't think spirits do at all. Actually, I think it's the entities that are not of this realm.
Okay.
They're lower vibrational energies, not the higher ones.
So, being as a witch for many years, obviously you approached the spirits and entities in a different way. How would you describe it as being different?
Say that. Can you repeat the question?
Well, as a witch, do you approach the spirits and entities differently than most people would?
Yes. When I approach spirits, I approach them with respect.
As everyone should.
As everyone should. I don't antagonize. I never antagonize. It's like I'm carrying on a conversation with you. It's respectful. I'll come in and if I'm going into the mansion, I always walk in and I say, "Hi, how are you today?" It's like I'm carrying on a conversation. How are you? How was your food? What did you do last night? Anything out of the ordinary? When I leave, I say goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Well, you brought up the mansion, and the mansion you're talking about is the Sylvester Knowlton Pierce Victorian Haunted Mansion. That is well written about in books and websites in Gardner, Mass. And as I know, you're working there, and in addition, you've spent many days and many nights there over the last 4 years. How do you feel about the mansion? There are 13 spirits that are known to be in the mansion. Do you find any of them to be malevolent?
No, none of them are. They're actually, some of them are very playful.
Do you find them to be very anxious to communicate with people?
Yes, they do. And there's one I've made very close contact with. He's not into comedy, but we've become very close. So he actually asked me for a Christmas tree one day, and he wanted the one that we were putting up into the grand hallway upstairs, and I said, well, I can't really give you that one, but I brought him one from home, and he asked for certain things, and we make sure he gets it. He wanted a pipe, we gave him a pipe, and he's a very serious person. But I like it to communicate with him because I'm psychic, so it's very nice when we have that conversation.
Which kind of intrigues me, that how did you actually become part of the mansion?
I think it was about 5 years ago. It was on our bucket list, one of our to-dos on our bucket list. So we went there on a paranormal investigation, my husband and I, and it was when the former owners, Edwin and Lillian, owned it, and we became very close with them, and we're still good friends with them, as well as the manager, Marion, and we still, great things have happened for us, and now we're friends with the new owners.
A kind of disturbing question I find is, what the heck do you do to tame the spirits of the location? I don't feel that you can tame any spirit. What are your feelings on that? No,
you can't tame any spirits. You communicate with them. I don't understand the word tame. It's just a communication. I wouldn't. Taming to me is like taming a tiger. You communicate. You ask questions. You never go up to any spirit and say, "How did you die? Who killed you?" That's not a way to ask a question. They want to be asked questions of, they look at us differently, like we look at them differently. We walk in there with clothing like this, and they're trying to figure out, what the heck are you wearing? I want to know what they're wearing from their time period, from the 1800s. I want to see the lace, and I want to see, how they wore their hair back then. So when I communicate with them, I want to know about their period clothing.
And as a psychic medium, do you find that you actually see those things when
I
you
do.
communicate with them?
I do. And when with Ellen Pierce one night, she was talking to me about her privacy. I'm like, privacy? And then my husband Ken says to me, oh, privacy means privacy. So I just think it's, it's funny how, and they channel through me every once in a while too, which is pretty cool. He says my whole persona changes.
All right. So you feel they appreciate when you relate to their time more
Yes.
than your time.
Yes.
They're more comfortable with the time that they grew up and experienced.
Yeah.
So moving on, I guess we'll move on to a pretty intriguing question is, what would you say was your most profound experience with a spirit?
Oh, that one. That would be my mom. I was downstairs washing the dishes, and my mom was like a little kid. She loved lilacs. And she used to run over to the neighbor's yard, and instead of asking, she'd snip their lilacs and run back home and put them on the counter. Well, while I was washing the dishes one day, I could smell lilacs, and I said, oh, my mom's here. And the smell got stronger, and my mom would pound things. And when I heard the pounding, I turned around, and she was standing right there, and I took a step, and I walked right through her, and I went, oh, shit. Don't you ever do that again to me. It scared the crap right out of me.
Yep.
So she hasn't done that since, and I was so thankful, but then the lilac smell went away.
And I understand that your father has actually made appearances at your home.
Yes, when my father always plays music boxes, and the ones that every year around Christmas time he plays a music box that's broken, and it hasn't worked. It only works at Christmas. So it only plays like 3-4 notes, and my mother bangs things, and he also flickers lights.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, have you felt that they have crossed over, or do they come and visit, or are they looking to just say hello?
Just because spirits, spirits cross over, but they, I would say they're more earthbound. Well, they come and go. People who cross spirits over, they can come back anytime they want. So I would say they're more earthbound. They're just not ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't come all the time. Just
Do
to
you
say
think it's
hello.
good advice or good for someone without the knowledge to try to cross somebody over?
No, you need years of experience and understanding on how to cross somebody over. That's getting into territory that, you just don't go over and say, hey, see you later, bye, I think it's time for you to go.
So there's a certain procedure you need
It's
to
a whole
take.
ritual. The
Right.
whole ritual involved on crossing somebody
It's
over.
very, very serious.
Very serious. Especially,
You're dealing with a soul, and you want to treat it with respect.
yes. We did it to, a woman called us to her house, and when you walk in you could feel the heaviness, and it wasn't something it was very nasty. And it took us about 3 to 5 hours. There was a whole ritual involved in getting rid of this entity. And we got her involved in it because she has to help out too. And she didn't realize how long this was going to take.
Right.
So and a lot of people will sit there and they'll do their little bits and pieces and think 10 minutes is all it takes, and it does not take 10 minutes.
It can take several days.
Exactly.
Well, I'd like to, I know we only had a brief time together, but I'd like to thank you for spending some time with me and answering some questions. There's so much more I'd like to ask, but because of time restraints, I really can't. But thank you for spending the time with me, Mimi.
And thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Am I good or what?